If you were watching this right now, you were not taken up in the rapture, neither was I. So you have time to chat about the Left Behind film, which is the movie behind the mindset that you're seeing all over your For You page right now. Ascending into the heavens aside, this is more seriously about how stories can function in a community to help us make sense of a social crisis or some of the political violence we've been seeing. And perhaps today is the day we take a moment of silence for all of us who were deeply traumatized by the Left Behind movies. RaptureTok has gone viral. It has bled across other platforms, and we were watching creators make their preparations for this day. These creators have been showing us their prep for this moment. They have been evangelizing their particular brand of faith. They've been leaving behind Bibles and candles and things like that. And they have also been encouraging people, listen, stay strong. Don't take the mark of the beast when the Antichrist arises. And here's some information on my TikTok that I'm leaving behind so you won't be in the dark. So what is the rapture? It's a theological paradigm that at its core is an interpretation that is very modern. It posits that at some end times flashpoint, Jesus is going to come back and take all the true believers with him. What you've been seeing is this ramp up to a September 23rd rapture, which of course coincides with the Jewish holiday Rosh Hashanah and the Feast of Trumpets. We shouldn't be surprised that there's always backpedaling and then arguing over the timelines and how it's actually all going to unfold, because this idea came about in the 1830s. John Nelson Darby, who is a 19th century theologian, he typically gets the credit for this idea. And let me be clear, this is a non-biblical concept that got some more cultural significance through art in the 1970s and then in the 1990s. And that's because of Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins. Those two writers and the very creators you see today, they're mining a rich text like the Bible, but they're doing so in their own context. I'm talking about like apocalyptic literature that's found in Revelations, Jewish idioms that Jesus references in what we call the New Testament, or translations of ancient Hebrew scripture that's found in what Christians call the Old Testament. Now, someone could write an entire dissertation on this, but there is a reason that American conservative evangelicals in particular ran with this idea. The rapture has become a source of serious tension among other denominations and the wider church as they try to deal with the fallout of what happens when people totally buy into this. Because part of what comes out of something like this is a ton of faulty interpretations that are really lackadaisical, and then the kind of arrogance that assumes that America, in its modern state right now, is at the center of biblical prophecy. And that job is made all the harder when you have a very sticky story that came through an extremely popular media franchise. Left Behind at one point attributed 50% of the profit at the Tyndale Publishing House. It has sold tens of millions of copies. What started as one single standalone novel spawned an entire 14, 15-part adult fiction line and then a children's line that had almost as many books. Then it jumped to Hollywood, producing films from 2000 to 2023. Left Behind produces a very specific vision of the end times, including who will be taken and who will be left behind. And let me tell you, a very small Alex and many other people believe that this was gospel truth. Like many other people on here, as a child, I read all of those books and basically thought, oh, this is an accurate description of what's going to happen because these guys are theologians and they must know what they're talking about. And then I watched the film and got further freaked out. What I didn't know was that Tim LaHaye and Beverly LaHaye are essentially Christian nationalists who had a very specific interpretation and vision to push because they wanted to create a certain kind of America. It's really fascinating to see how their version and personal idea of what God's kingdom should look like became pop culture. In the first movie, long before the 5 other films came around, Kirk Cameron plays a journalist who is left behind. The rest of the cast of characters also deals with a group of people who either thought they were going to be raptured and then didn't get raptured, or cannot believe that their own family has now been splintered because of the rapture and their lack of faith. As the chaos and carnage rain down all around them, they stumble upon the truth, and then they decide they're going to stand strong through the 7 years of tribulation, and they're going to refuse the mark of the beast and the Antichrist. That way, they'll be ready when Jesus comes back a second time. This film stands in the line of those early 2000s Christian films that were very lucrative and did very well. These films sold a fantasy that comforted a very particular brand of Christianity. Now, back when we were in youth groups being taken to these cheesy films and making fun of them in the back row, these studios that were producing them realized that this was a massive cash cow because the churches were a built-in in-house marketing system. Were these high production value shows or like The Chosen or more thoughtful Christian meditations on the faith? No, they weren't. Left Behind played into an American desire to be removed by their very specific God out of the hell they all voted for. It provided and continues to provide this very convenient out for an uncertain and changing world that makes people very uncomfortable. These pre-trib people, which stands for pre-tribulation, believe that Jesus will not make them suffer through the tribulation, that they will be raptured prior to it. Because of their true faith, they will not be required to suffer at the end of the world. They are his special bride and his chosen one, and all the hell of climate change and political violence and upheaval, not going to be their problem anymore. The Left Behind movies also helped scare people into falling in line before it was too late. And because the rapture doesn't happen, what you have is this group of people that become very scared and willing to carry out whatever political agenda you tell them they need to make God happy, and then the rapture still never comes. The stakes of getting it wrong at this point, or questioning their political or social system, it's now too high because nobody wants to get left behind. And this mindset that it's all going to burn anyway is really convenient for people who want more power to do whatever they want to the world and her inhabitants. And it's that framework that's deeply influencing some of the kinder people you're seeing on RaptureTok in how they are leaving information behind for people to find, or candles in case the electricity goes out. These people do grieve and feel pain over the people they are leaving behind in this world. And unfortunately, because there's so much evangelical media that mirrors this idea, you never actually have to interrogate it if you don't want to. The emotional sway of watching Kirk Cameron fight the Antichrist and fight for his life in that film is in some ways more overpowering mentally than sitting down and taking the time to really theologically look at what you believe. It also doesn't help that PureFlix, which is a major Christian media contender in that space, labels Left Behind as a biblical belief and concept. To people who don't do any more digging, they could watch this film and just assume it's theologically sound. The movie to this day gets 5-star reviews from Christians who are like, I don't care about the production values. This relays what is in the Bible. Way back in the ancient days, apocalyptic scripture, like what we find in Revelations and what was sold in the marketplaces that was not included in the Bible, it was considered a source of literature that brought hope to the downtrodden and the oppressed. Yes, you might be struggling under the oppression of the empire. Yes, your child might be sacrificed as blood to the blood gods in these never-ending forever wars. Yes, it might seem like mighty powers and strange pandemics with diseases that nobody had medicine for were sweeping away the foundations of your life. But apocalyptic literature told people that a mighty God saw them anyways, that God was bigger than the powers of death and the empire around them, that there was no king, no tyrant who was greater than their God, that they could hold out for another season because at the end of the day, when it came down to a battle between God and the powers that be, God and death, God was going to win. This historical belief that the light is already here, that through hope and love we persevere and we hold on to each other and we walk humbly and justly and mercifully with our God, that has been around for a long time, much longer than rapture theology. For oppressed people on the margins, apocalypse is always happening. The old world is always passing away when we choose justice and mercy for each other amid a world on fire. For colonized people and marginalized people, the end of the world has already happened. I think it's good to remember that many of the rapture fears that we see today, even though they're amongst a diverse population and because of the internet they're kind of spreading to other parts of the world, it is uniquely American in its anxieties. It is a form of escapism that was popularized not by some amazing exegesis that was so well done, but by a media franchise. It is a story that details the hopes and dreams of particular Christian nationalists. I hope that context and this little film media history places what's going on in its proper context. I could talk about this for ages, but I would love to know, did you watch any of the films? And if the first one didn't get you, did the Nicolas Cage ones grab you by any chance? Let me know if you've recovered from them, and blessedly, I'll see you tomorrow.